So we will now move to our final segment, which is some analysis of a very interesting video of some vehicles, some vehicular combat, which is something that's always a rare sight, I would say, in the full-scale invasion, because what we see a lot is tanks getting destroyed by drones, or tanks getting just lobbing shots over the horizon, right? So to see real vehicle-on-vehicle combat, like video footage of it, is relatively rare, and this particular video is something that I think garnered a lot of interest. So from there, I'll leave it to Erlend. Erlend, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. And I'm very sorry that, unfortunately, the guest that I was going to speak about this particular video is not here with us because of some other issues. But I will try to walk through this video a little bit. And if any of you other people could help me while I'm talking about it with some questions and comments, that would probably help the segment along. So the reason why, I'm just going to press play and then I'm going to leave it in the background for now. But you may have seen this video. It's a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle engaging a Russian T-90 tank. And that's quite of a big challenge for an IFV in the first place. And the reason why I wanted to show it is that if you guys remember, during the summer offensive, we saw a bunch of Bradleys and Leopards, Leopard 2s, bogged down in a field and partially or completely destroyed by artillery and mines. A lot of people were very disappointed, and also not so satisfied with the Ukrainian use of the Western provided armor, and pointed out a lot of different mistakes that were being made by the personnel operating them. One of them being also the reaction and to the enemy fire or mines that they hit in the middle of the fields, etc., and that they simply just abandoned the vehicles. Well, during the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months, every time I've seen a video of a Bradley, especially, or also CV90s and also Western provided tanks operating, it seems like the Ukrainians not only operates completely differently in a more decisive manner and with a a lot better reaction to events that occur in the battlefield, but they've also developed some sort of their own tactics. And yeah, in this video, basically what happens is that a Bradley takes on a T-90 and disables it. That is an extraordinary event, and you can see I think there are 2 Bradleys involved in this attack. You can see them down on the right here. One exited the image just now, and one is coming back in, and they're moving constantly, which is confusing the enemy, and they move as they fire. And I can assume at least that they do take out some of the censoring and surprises the personnel operating the T-90, and in this way they manage to continue their assault on this main battle tank. And it's just an extraordinary event, in my opinion, that an IFV can take out a main battle tank with its autocannon. We're talking about a 25 millimeter autocannon versus a very heavily armored main battle tank that has a significantly larger caliber. And if the T-90 would be able to get a successful hit on the Bradley, that would have been game over. So yeah, that's kind of my main thoughts about this video. I'm very sorry that our guest is not here, but I hope we can get them on later at a different occasion and talk more about not just this video, but also other videos that have come out that are similar. I saw another one of a CV90 where the personnel dismounts and attack a trench line, and I was also hoping to talk about that one today. But if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
I guess my question, Alan, would be like, how does an IFV find itself in that position where it's facing down a tank, right? Like, I mean, theoretically, you don't want to be in that situation, right?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think there are two alternatives. They're either reacting to a situation where the T90 approaches them, and they find out that the best way is to confront it straight up, or this is an ambush. And I don't know what's the real answer, because I don't know how they planned this or if it happened surprisingly. But I think there are a couple of things that points towards an ambush, and it's first of all the drone footage that we have of it. There are actually more drone footage than just this one, and an FPV drone going for the final blow and taking out the T90 in the end when it has stopped its movement. So I'm thinking that this was a planned ambush, and also the movement, which is very, very constant and unpredictable from the two Bradleys that we see in the video. It kind of makes me believe this was an ambush. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And I guess maybe my other question was, John was mentioning, just in passing, if I understood him correctly, that there's a theory that the reason this sort of worked was that the Bradley is able to, because a Bradley has a 9mm cannon or something like that, it hit the explosive reactive armor, and that kind of caused enough of a disruption in the armor for the 30 mil to get through. Is that like accurate, Erland, or please feel free to recharacterize any of what I just said?
Well, I don't know specific penetration that the autocannon of the Bradley has, but
I guess my question is, like, it should be pretty difficult for the Bradley's weapon to like damage a tank significantly like that, yeah? Or would you disagree?
Well, so I don't know what kind of damage the Bradley did, but an autocannon, I think the Bradley has a 25mm actually, and it can definitely damage sensors and do some real bad damage to a tank if you get in the right hits from the right angles. The Bradley also have stable discarding fin stabilized rounds for its autocannon, which has a much greater penetration than just standard HE rounds. So if you hit the sensors, you could possibly end up blinding the gunner at the first hit. So that is possible, but it is very risky, because if you don't get your first hits in very quickly, and you're not able to either disable their sensors or disable some of the actual operating mechanics of the tank, then you're no match to the main gun of the tank. You're toast if you get hit. So yeah, you can see there now the turret is spinning around, and that's what makes me believe that something mechanically was destroyed. And you can also see that the ERA, so the explosive reactive armor on the T90, is burning. So the autocannon definitely did manage to significantly damage the T90. Many people thought that the driver was dead, but there is actually a video of all the 3 crew members jumping out and running away from the tank. So they survived. That's why I think something mechanically was disrupted. I'll see if I can get another version of this up. Yeah, the thing is that I'm kind of surprised that they didn't use any of their TOW missiles. because that is also a possibility that the Bradley has. So they also have that possibility. Did that answer any of your questions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just I guess like kind of an interesting video, I think, because it's a real, like, I don't know, just a one-on-one situation, and at least what we see in the video, right? We can't speak to what's actually going on the ground, but it's a one-on-one situation, and it's sort of a underdog story, right? Where a less well-armed and armored vehicle is going against a pretty powerful one and succeeding. So it's just kind of a, I don't know, like I guess I'm maybe at, my question is like, why do you think this video in particular has gotten so much traction on places like Twitter and other social media? And that would maybe be my theory, but if you had any thoughts, Erlen.
Yeah, I think that the underdog taking out, what is supposed to be, the best battle tank of the Russian army, the most modern, or at least one of them. I'm not all that into specifics of different T90 models, but this is supposed to be their best tank, right? And Bradley managed to get all the 3 crew members running away from it while it's flaming in the background, and I think that's just really impactful. Another reason why I think this has also made its rounds a lot on the internet is probably the fact that it's such a stark, big contrast from what we saw in the summer. The Ukrainian tactics has developed into something completely different from what we saw down in the southern fields of Zaporizhia in June. And also, I like to highlight it because it really shows what this sort of equipment and what it can do, and what it can, how big of an effect it can have on the battlefield. If you also add to the fact that the survivability of the crew in these vehicles, even when hit, is so much higher than in the Soviet era equipment that they usually operate, just makes such a big, appeal for more of this sort of equipment being transferred to Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I just have a question. We talk about this a lot at Tochny. So a couple of simple questions, perhaps. How would you assess the importance of movements in this Bradley's success?
Well, it's fundamental. It is really fundamental in an armored battle that you constantly move when you're engaging the enemy. I would love to see more smoke being deployed. That is still something I'm really wondering why they don't deploy smoke more often. It's kind of one of those situations where, yeah, maybe they're scared that they won't get resupplied with the smoke canisters, etc. But you might not live another day if you don't deploy that smoke when you're encountering enemy fire. So you should deploy that smoke anyways, even if you think you're not going to get resupplied. But yeah, the movement, deploying smoke, any tanker would probably emphasize a lot on that.
They're constantly shooting on the move in this video, Erlens. They're reversing behind corners. They're using foliage, trees, whatever, embankments as cover. Does this remind you of any other footage involving vehicles that you've seen during this war?
Well, I will say that lately, whenever we've seen Bradleys and CV90s engaging Russian armor or enemies, also trench lines of fortifications, etc., that they have been either firing from a very, very considerable far distance, so like often 2 kilometers. That is a different thing, which also gives you an extra layer of protection, of course. But whenever I've seen them engaging the Russian positions, especially. I'm going to bring up a video actually of that with the CV90 because it illustrates this a lot better. There's always been a lot more movement compared to what we saw in June. So I'll start from the beginning. So basically, this is the CV90 engaging in an enemy trench line. And trench line is here. The video is a little bit edited, so we don't know exactly what happened before this. But the interesting part here is that there was a main battle tank and a CV90 behind it. The interesting part here for me is that you see dismounts engaging as well, and I haven't seen any video of that for a very long time. And this is similar to what we saw in before the main part of the summer offensive, where the 3rd Assault Battalion, the 3rd Assault Brigade, was engaging enemy trench lines north of Bakhmut. And this is really, I would say, schoolbook example of tactics with an IFV. Covering fire from the main battle tank, and the IFV also engaging the trench line as the infantry moves out of the vehicle and attacks. I would love this video to be longer, but that's what we got.
So, and we have a few audience questions. I think one of them you sort of half answered a little bit, if I heard you correctly. Do you know how the CV90 and the Archer works in Ukraine? So I think you mentioned the CV90 a little bit, but if you wanted to expand on that.
Well, so the CV90s, the Archers, and the 122 Stridsvagn, so the basically a Leopard 2 A6 equivalent that the Swedes have heavily modified. They were all supposed to be, and they were originally in a Swedish brigade. So basically a whole brigade which was equipped with a lot of Swedish armor and also the Archers. That situation has changed a little bit. We've seen, so this was from a total different brigade. I don't remember exactly which one now, but they have transferred some CV90s to other brigades. And I kind of think that this has to do with the need for modern Western armor in certain areas more than it has to do with the brigade not working as intended in the first place. There has been a couple of videos of Archers, and one video where it's in a firing position, which has been geolocated, and that was, I think, just just west of Kupiansk, about 25 kilometers from the front lines, which is, in the rear, but the Archer has a very long range, and it can move a lot very fast because it's wheeled, and if you've seen videos of the Archer, you know that it can deploy very fast, shoot, and get quickly on the road again. So I'm expecting that they are, or at least I'm assuming that they're moving a lot on the roads behind, consider actually quite a far distance behind the front lines, and executing fire missions as much as they can. I don't have any more insights to it than that. I can try and find that video.
Yeah, I think one thing Ukrainians will probably appreciate is that the Archer is heated, if I recall correctly, Erlen.
Oh yeah, it's you have 3 crew operating the Archer when it's on the move, and they are all in a very nice heated cabin in the front of the vehicle. They don't even need to step outside.
Yeah, the M777 crews are jealous, I'm sure. Thank you, Erlen. Another question was, did the Bradleys use their TOW anti-tank missiles or just their autocannons? I assume maybe in that video, but maybe we can extend the question to say, have you seen any footage of the TOW being used?
I can at least not identify TOW being fired in the video. I can only see the autocannon.
Gotcha. Have you ever seen a video where Bradley fires a TOW in Ukraine?
Yes, I've seen a couple of videos, I think in August, where they were driving in columns on a field and both firing autocannons and engaging trench line with tow missiles. Yes.
Great. I think that's all the audience questions, unless anyone sees any other ones relevant to the Bradley stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for that segment, Erlen. I guess, like, we could maybe sort of wrap this up a bit by discussing. I mean, the U.S. still has a lot of Bradleys. I wish John or Colby were here to give me like a more solid foundation for what I'm about to say. But as far as I know, the U.S. has plenty of Bradleys in stockpile, awaiting, I guess, World War III in Tucson, Arizona somewhere. And I mean, I guess, long story short, based on this footage, among other things, we should be sending more Bradleys to Ukraine, right? I think that's kind of maybe the takeaway from the video. What would you say?
Yeah, that's kind of also why I wanted to show this video in the first place, because the effect that the both European and US weapons aid to Ukraine has on the battlefield is actually significant, even if when you look from far away, it might be difficult to see all the advantages. But these are the videos that really shows how big of a difference it makes. I don't think any Soviet legacy armor IFV could do this. So you might be uh, you might be finding something from Mariupol, but that was actually a Ukrainian modernized BTR. So I don't think you will find any footage or any scenario where the BMP 2 or 3 can perform like the Bradley did here. And the Bradley is also old. So yeah, it's old, but it's gold.
I remember that video from Mariupol of that BMP or BTR actually ambushing that. I think it was a Russian tank. That was pretty insane. Yeah, I think it's something that I think, like you were kind of mentioning, we get disheartened. We see a beautiful multi-million-dollar 122 tank get destroyed by a little dumb Lancet drone, and we get maybe a little disheartened, and we go, oh, maybe this stuff isn't really the solution to this problem that we're having in Ukraine, right? But I mean, I think that videos like this really illustrate this equipment's really important. This is an industrial war in trenches. They need this stuff to clear the trenches, to move forward, to do fight tanks and things like this. And this stuff really does matter. I mean, for every video we see of a Lancet destroying a 122 tank, there are 122 tanks in Ukraine that are putting in work, and IFVs that are putting. We shouldn't, I think, get too disheartened by the videos that maybe indicate sometimes that, like, new technology is turning some of these vehicles into more dangerous propositions than the past. Would you kind of agree with that sentiment, Erlen?
Yeah, and the thing is that when I don't know if you remember before the full scale offensive really started in June, when we were talking about all this aid coming in, and sorry, and I think at least I was, and some other members of Tarchny were saying quite loudly, we're going to see these vehicles being destroyed, and we shouldn't be disheartened by it. But when it happened, it was still such a huge impact on morale, not just for the Ukrainians, but also for us. Yeah. So that's always going to happen. Whatever kind of equipment that we're gonna supply to the Ukrainians, we're probably going to see losses, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't make a difference. But yeah, I just wanted to show this video as well. This is also a proof that the Swedish Archer system is being used in Ukraine, and it's it's you know, doing its job on the driving around the back roads west of Kupiansk and hammering the Russian front lines.
Yeah, they really seem to like the wheeled artillery stuff, like the Caesar. I think they seem to show a special fondness for the track stuff. I'm sure they like, but I don't know. I think the Archer and the Caesar have maybe a special place in their heart.
Yeah, I think just the ease of maintenance, because you don't have a very complex tracked vehicle to maintain on top of to actually maintaining the howitzer itself. I think that's very welcome. Because it's not like they don't have enough stuff to do already, and maintaining a tracked vehicle on top of that is not just any task. It's actually a considerable amount of work.